The Council movement also shows that Islamic rule and its savagery are not people's choices. They are not their culture and their religion, as Islamists often claim, but actually the culture and religion of a political movement that imposes it with brute force. If it is people's culture and religion, why does the regime in Iran, for example, have to arrest 7,000 women in 1 month in one city for improper veiling? If it's people's culture and religion, why do the religious police in Saudi Arabia have to prevent men from trying to save girls who are fleeing a burning building, prevent them from touching them because they say they're not religiously allowed to touch girls that are not closely related to them? Why are there so many families in Afghanistan daring to send their girls to schools and to educate their schools when girls, children and teachers are being murdered by the Taliban? And why are we getting several members joining our movement here in every country in Europe every week? The Council movement reiterates that people everywhere want and demand universal rights and values, which, as we have said on many occasions, are not Western but belong to all humanity. The Council movement unequivocally defends universalism vis-à-vis a culture of and a climate of cultural relativism. Contrary to its image, cultural relativism does not lead to a more tolerant society, but a more intolerant one. It aids and abets the political Islamic movement by justifying Islamic rule and deflecting criticism of its inhumane nature. It justifies this era's Holocaust by lowering standards and redefining values to the lowest and most regressive depths, and holding all values and beliefs, no matter how brutal and barbaric, as not only equal, but equally valid. Rather than being anti-racist, cultural relativism is racism, pure and simple, by implying that people choose to live the way they are forced to. Within this climate, Islamists have succeeded in blurring the distinction between individuals and beliefs, whether it's actually people's beliefs or imputed on them. As a result, concepts such as rights, equality, respect, tolerance, which were initially raised vis-à-vis individuals and human beings, are now more and more applicable to culture and religion and often take precedence over real-life human beings. Which is why today any criticism and ridiculing of or opposition to beliefs, to culture, to religion, to gods, to prophets are being deemed racism, disrespecting, inciting hatred, and even violence against those deemed believers. Clearly, you cannot be racist against a belief or an idea or an ideology. Racism is distinctions, exclusions, restrictions, or preferences based on race, on color, on descent or national and ethnic origin, albeit many of them constructed, of individuals, of human beings, not of beliefs. Blurring the distinction between the two and the use of rights and anti-racist language here in the West to do so are devious ways of silencing criticism and opposition. Criticism which is particularly crucial given the havoc that political Islam and Islam are wreaking not only in the Middle East and North Africa for several decades, but more recently here in the West as well. Of course the human being is sacred. Of course the human being is worthy of the highest respect and rights and equality. But this doesn't apply to beliefs, to religion, and to cultures. By revealing the deceptive use of Islamophobia and anti-racist language used by the Islamists, the Council movement makes it easier for others to denounce Islam and political Islam. Another tactic of the political Islamic movement is to limit free expression by deeming any criticism of religion a no-go area, again, in order to prevent criticism, so it can go about its business as usual. Its tactics, from threats and intimidation to equating criticism against Islam and political Islam as racism, has meant that the political Islamic movement is not being addressed and challenged in the way that it must. The media is often soft on Islam and political Islam, and has very often taken on board self-censorship. Western governments have also promoted this in their attempts to appease aspects of this movement. So we see, for example, when the Muhammad caricatures came out, no newspaper in Britain agreed to publish them. Even though I did on my blog, many other people did, but no mainstream newspaper in Britain agreed to publish them. Editors in France, which is supposed to be a bastion of secularism, were fired for publishing the Muhammad caricatures. And in Sweden, the government actually shut down a website that had published them. And following that, the British government tried to impose a law in which criticizing religion would penalize you to up to 7 years in prison. It's failed for now, but they're still thinking about bringing that law. In light of the tremendous assault on freedom of expression, the Council of Ex-Muslims are in fact defending free speech unconditionally and unequivocally when many people aren't. The very act of renouncing religion and Islam is the greatest act of free expression possible.